has been a whirlwind of activity since President Trump took office, with deals made and promises kept.
My administration will live by the motto, promises made, promises kept.
We are proud to present the 100 Days of Trump. Here are your hosts, Larry Elder and Chris DeGaulle.
And I am Larry Elder, along with my co-host, Mr. Chris DeGaulle. Chris, how are you?
Lawrence, it's great to be with you live from the swamp today in D.C. Doing well. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. This is obviously the 100 days of President Donald Trump. I think, Chris, the most consequential 100 days of any president's first term or second term I have ever seen. The slogan you've heard, promises made, promises kept, could not be more profound. He is the most interesting, consequential, magnetic politician I have ever seen. And I include terms of personality, people like Bill Clinton, who I thought was a magnificent personality, didn't agree with his policies, or Barack Obama, or even Ronald Reagan. He's bigger than all of these people, I think, combined. Generally speaking, I said this during the show earlier, Chris, when you've been a one-term president, as Jimmy Carter was, your dog won't sniff you. When you're a one-term president like George Herbert Walker Bush, you can't get a table at Fatburger. This guy was, at the time, perceived to be a one-termer. He maintained control over the party, I think tightened his control over the party, and came roaring back and what became the biggest comeback I have ever seen.
It's amazing. He brought that up tonight, as a matter of fact. I know you were in the middle of your show, so maybe you weren't able to see all of his rally. It went about an hour and a half there in Michigan, and one of the things he said, he always likes to point to the fake news media in the back covering the rally. He said, they all used to say, I'm just a one-termer, I'm an inconsequential president. Well, they got to check that off their list, because here I am for a second term. They can't say that anymore. And as I was watching him after that hour and a half, ticking off the laundry list, and I've got it here in front of me if you want to go over some of it in a bit, but he's done the YMCA plays. He does that Trump dance. The people are going bananas. And I thought the same thing, Larry. We've said it 1,000 times when we wrap up our show or we watch him live. There's nothing like him. He's a force. We'll never see anything like it again, I don't think. I really do wonder what the Republican Party looks like once he exits stage left, you know?
I remember election night 2020. Jake Tapper, CNN, comes out and says, well, for many Americans, to paraphrase former President Harold Ford, for millions of Americans, their long national nightmare is over. 4 years later, he's back!
and Larry, they're trying to write books now like they knew all along. Biden was diminished. We knew all along, the Axios guy and Jake, trying to sell books about how they were all on to Biden all along. Nobody buys that, of course. Trump had a great joke tonight. He said, look, Biden had me bested in one area. Nobody could fall asleep in a beach chair faster than that guy. I wish I could sleep as well as Joe Biden did, he said. I like that line.
You know, and I thought, Chris, I still remain hopeful that at some point half the country is going to wake up and say, okay, I may not like his style. I may not like the way he insults people, but I got to give it up to him on the economy. I got to give it up to him on the border. I thought maybe at some point that would happen. Let's just stay on the border. For 4 years, as you know, we were told you cannot secure the border without comprehensive immigration reform, and that's got to start with Congress. President Trump comes in, no bill from Congress. Within 1 month, the border is tighter than Ted's hat band. It seemed to me, if I'm a Trump-hating Democrat, at some point I would say, God, I guess I was lied to for 4 years. I guess it wasn't true you had to have comprehensive immigration reform because the man didn't have any of that and the borders are secured. I need to rethink my attitude, at least on the borders. I would have thought at least that might happen.
And when you see the walkway lined to the White House this week, I think it was just yesterday, he's lined the walkway with all of the worst. Not just people that broke into the country, but broke into the country and committed heinous crimes. You know, it was interesting tonight, right off the top at the rally, Larry, he put together an official White House video that he rolled there in the rally. And to watch it, it was movie quality as they showcased rounding up these bad hombres, the Tren de Aragua guys, shaving them. I mean, it was like a full deal, you know, putting them in leg irons, shaving their beards, shaving their heads, frog marching them into their prison cells. It was a big dramatic production. It was very, very clear that was what Trump believes is his leading message. It's what propelled him to victory twice. I think that's pretty undeniable. And he's had great effect. And the Democrats, as you know, seem to think the hill to die on is to go to El Salvador and try to spring these guys and bring them home. It's bananas.
And Chris, on the DEI stuff, I was in Boston 2004 when this guy with a funny name, skinny guy with funny ears named Barack Obama came out there and gave that speech and brought down the House. There's no blue America. There's no red America. There's just one America, the United States of America. Yeah! There's no black America. There's no white America. Yeah! People went nuts. And when he ran for president, he gave an interview with Steve Croft of 60 Minutes, and Croft said, "Senator, if you don't win, will it be because of race?" Now, I'm home by myself, Chris. I sat back and I said, let's see how this man answers this question. And much to my surprise and pleasure, Senator Obama said, no. If I don't win, it will be because I have failed to articulate a view, a vision that the American people can embrace. I said, hallelujah. I'm not going to vote for somebody who wants to tax, spend, regulate, and do what became Obamacare, but at least he'll stop the nonsense about America being systemically racist. For 8 years, he played race card after race card after race card, and more insidiously, he's the one who signed an executive order mandating DEI be part of most government functions. Biden took it to another level, so we've had DEI infused in our government, just the antithesis of what people thought Obama would do when he got elected. Donald Trump comes in and takes a sledgehammer to this DEI nonsense, and not just in government, but also in the private sector.
That's exactly right, and you can see who it makes the most angry. People like Susan Rice. I don't know if you saw the interview she recently gave on a podcast where she's just spewing venom about these white Christian MAGA men. And Michelle Obama, same deal. It was clear that was their agenda all along. Yeah, you're right. Trump completely annihilated that from all facets of government, and it drives them bonkers. They wanted to embed that, enshrine that, codify that in government for the rest of their days, and they thought they'd gotten away with it, and Trump just blew it up.
Now, Chris, the big wild card, of course, is tariffs. There would be mass suicide if, God forbid, Donald Trump is right. He's able to get our allies to drop the tariffs. If he's able to get China to back off the theft of our intellectual property and to drop their tariffs, and the economy goes booming. At that point, we might even see he's not going to run again that we know of. At that point,
he did reference that. I will say, Larry, he mentioned, after he said, I'm now a second-term president, the whole crowd started to chant, 3, 3, 3.
Right.
Just to stick him.
But again, the tariffs, that's the wild card. I'm a free trader. I know you're a free trader as well. The Economics 101 is that even if your trading partners put tariffs on you, you shouldn't retaliate because all you're doing is causing your own citizens to pay more for goods than they otherwise would pay. But if Donald Trump is right, that this is a negotiating tactic designed to get our allies and trading partners to lower their tariffs, even Adam Smith and Milton Friedman said, ideally, there shouldn't be any tariffs or low tariffs with everybody with whom you trade. If Donald Trump pulls that off, the economy is going to take off like a rocket.
You bet, and it's so critical, and we're going to talk about this in the hour. It's so critical that big, beautiful bill happened, because without it, this could be problematic, no doubt about it. This is a slow deal that Trump's trying to implement with Scott Bessent and his economic team. Bessent came out today, as you know, and tried to explain a little bit in more detail. He seems to calm the markets because he's been around for 35 years or something. And he said, listen, in fact, I made note of this. He said, Trump believes in strategic uncertainty. Direct quote. I thought that interesting, meaning when things get a little wobbly and shaky and nobody knows exactly where he's coming from, right, that's when people are interested in coming to the table. Bessent is cool as a cucumber with it, and so is Trump.
And quiet is kept, Chris. 6 consecutive days, the Dow has ended the day in the green. 6 consecutive days. People aren't talking too much about that.
No, but Bessent made that point. They talk about when it historically drops after a few days, but they don't talk about the historic comeback, do they?
And regarding the borders again, I mean, how many fewer women are going to be raped? And men. There was one illegal alien that raped a boy. How many people are not going to be mugged because of the people that have been deported and are not now going to come because they're not welcome anymore? How many people now are going to be safer because of what President Trump has done in just 100 days regarding the border?
It's amazing what he's done. I think people feel safer again. They feel like the captain is steering the ship, and there's a lot to tout and celebrate. We're going to do it in this hour.
And Chris, we only have a minute left in this segment. Either the price of eggs have gone down or they've not. Whoopi Goldberg says, I've not seen the price of eggs go down one dime. Nina does the shopping in our household. She says in 5 weeks they've gone from $9.99 a dozen to $6.99 a dozen. That sounds to me like a drop. I'm not saying President Trump deserves credit for that because it was partially the flu that did all this, but either it's true or it's not true.
My man, I was at the store with my wife several weeks ago, and I saw the price of eggs. A dozen eggs was somewhere up near $7, $8 where we shop. And it has, in fact, I can confirm, I was with her again. We purchased eggs just last week down in the $4 range where we shop. So that's true.
Now, can we at least give the man credit for presiding over an economy where the price of eggs has gone down? Can you at least concede that? Larry Elder, Chris Stigall will be right back.
Welcome back to the 100 Days of Trump. Here's Larry Elder and Chris DeGaulle.
If you are living with everyday pain and you think you've tried everything, let me tell you about John from the great state of California and his Relief Factor story. John was experiencing the everyday aches and pains that keep us from enjoying our lives. So he started taking Relief Factor because he heard about it on radio and television. Before he knew it, pain-free relief was on the way. What about you? You having difficulty with neck, knee, shoulder, joint pain? Think you tried everything? Don't let pain keep you from living the way you want. See how Relief Factor, a daily drug-free supplement developed by doctors, could help you feel and live better every single day. So call right now to try Relief Factor's 3-week quick start. It is just $19.95. That works out to less than $1 a day. In 3 weeks or even less, feel the difference it can make in your life. Visit ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF. That's ReliefFactor.com, 1-800-4-RELIEF.
Border. I mean, it's almost completely sealed now. It's gone down 90%. Border crossings and gotaways. You know, unleashing American energy dominance. He declared a national energy emergency. He has already spurred on the approval of more drilling and pipelines and refineries and power plants and reactors, and he ended the electric vehicle mandate from the last administration. All the destructive policies are being unwound from the last team. On the economy, he's brought down inflation and gas prices. He's getting China to address the tariff disparity that we've had with them, the imbalance, and the fact that they steal our intellectual property and they sent fentanyl over our borders that became the #1 cause of death for Americans aged 18 to 49. Restoring common sense. You know, we've ended DEI in the military and the government. We're restoring freedom of speech. We're defending the Christian faith and freedom of religion. Kept men out of women's sports. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So everything he said on that campaign trail and the countless number of rallies that he did leading up to the election, he is already checking the boxes. Now, we have to do our job, the parallel effort in Congress, to get that done and to codify, to put into law all these things. And the one big, beautiful reconciliation bill is going to be the key vehicle to get that done.
Larry Elder, along with Chris DeGaulle, we are talking about the 100 days of President Donald John Trump 2.0. Chris, the other thing, too, and Speaker Johnson touched on it, is that we're smashing recruiting numbers in the military. All of a sudden now, this DEI, this woke stuff is gone, and the numbers of people that are applying to join the military have gone through the roof.
Yeah, it's huge. In fact, he had a big press conference today in Michigan before his rally and spoke in front of an Air National Guard unit. And Gretchen Whitmer was there, no less. And he even dragged her sheepishly up to the podium to say a few words with all the men and women in fatigues behind him cheering as he announced they're building the new F-15s, I believe, up there in Michigan, going to keep that base open. So, yeah, Pete Hegseth was there. He's fully behind Hegseth. Recruitment numbers through the roof. All the DEI stuff is gone. And Hegseth's a warrior leader. And that's something, as you well know, Larry, establishment Washington hates. I think maybe more than Elon, more than RFK Jr., Pete Hegseth may be, next to Donald Trump, the most loathed man in Washington, D.C., because he strikes right at the heart of that military-industrial complex.
Well, we know that you interviewed Congressman Andy Biggs. Let's play part of that. Can you play that?
The 100-day recognition is this week. Could I get a broad overview of what you feel has been achieved as a member of the House in the first 100 days?
Well, we've done a lot of things to try to codify some of President Trump's executive orders. We've also put Democrats on record. We've sent stuff to the Senate. We did some things that I never would have thought possible for either myself or others to vote for, and that was we extended the budget so we could get started on the reconciliation process, and the reconciliation process has gone slower, quite frankly, than I wanted, but that's been good. But I mean, you look at overall, let's take a look. The border security is probably the most consequential in my lifetime. It's I lived down in Arizona. I grew up in a a congressional district that bordered the border, and I will tell you, it's really remarkable to see what's going on. Although we still have issues, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. Then you look at the moves that we've seen to deregulate the EPA with 31 major rules coming down. You look at the attack on the Department of Education, which is absolutely unconstitutional. There's no constitutional authority for it whatsoever. And you see, what I tell people all the time is, and I'm sorry to ramble on here.
That's all right.
You gave me an open question. You gave me an open question.
It's a big one.
But that's the bottom line for me is I'm seeing what I'm calling the rebirth or the renewal of federalism. That's what President Trump's done. I mean, when you think about that, where you're deregulating these federal, or what I would call national mandates, in favor of state control, and that's happening, and it's a remarkable thing to see. In the meantime, President Trump has basically done a great job, in my opinion, reining in the international world, this move to the global or new world order, the globalism that has been there for the last 30 years. He's been remarkable taking that on as well. So this has been a multifaceted attempt to restore constitutional republicanism in the country. And when I say republicanism, I'm not talking about the Republican Party. I'm talking about what the founders intended. They intended a constitutional republic, not a democracy. And we're seeing that. It hasn't been perfect and hasn't been beautiful, but I can tell you this, when you're making the change and causing the disruption in a status quo town, you're going to have the pushback that we see.
Chris, I have said that the 4 years President Trump was out of office turned out to be a blessing in disguise. He was able to reassess his first 4 years, figure out what he did right, what he did wrong, and then understand better the kinds of people he needed to have around him. To that extent, he's now assembled what I consider to be an A-team. They're all great communicators. Everybody from Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, to Lee Zeldin, the head of the EPA, to Kristi Noem, DHS, Stephen Miller, his top policy advisor, Tom Homan, Marco Rubio. You can go on and on and on. They're all tremendous communicators.
Couldn't agree more. And also, I talked with some other members on Capitol Hill the last 24 hours, Larry. Here's one thing that's different about this Republican constituency up on Capitol Hill. They know who's the boss this time. There's no bucking Donald Trump this time like Paul Ryan or Mitch McConnell. This time, Thune and Johnson know who's boss, and they're trying to get everybody to row the same direction. That's a unique difference this time.
It sure is. I mean, you and I were talking earlier about free trade. Virtually every one of these Republicans were aghast at the extent to which Donald Trump was imposing these tariffs. Nobody bucked him. They're all like, okay, you deserve the benefit of the doubt. You won the election. You won all 7 states, so we're going to hang with you. Think about that. I mean, when's the last time a president had that kind of hold over his party?
Laura Trump's going to tell us how they did that, by the way. You know, she was co-chair of the RNC. Massive win in November. It's a mandate.
Larry Elder, Chris DeGaulle, do not leave town.
It has been a whirlwind of activity since President Trump took office, with deals made and promises kept.
My administration will live by the motto, promises made, promises kept.
We are proud to present the 100 Days of Trump. Here are your hosts, Larry Elder and Chris DeGaulle.
And again, this is the 100 Days of Donald Trump. I'm Larry Elder, along with my partner, Chris DeGaulle. And Chris, the man looks like he is having fun. Remember this exchange?
Is President Putin disrespecting you by attacking Ukraine when you're trying to
Who?
make peace there? Is President Putin disrespecting you by attacking Ukraine when you're trying to make peace there?
What did he do?
Well, he's attacking Ukraine.
Is he disrespecting me?
Yeah.
Who are you with?
I'm Michael Burnbaum, the Washington Post.
You've lost a lot of credibility. Go ahead. What else?
Who are you with? The Washington Post.
You know what I love about that, Larry? He has gotten really wise to this over the years. It's not his first rodeo. I love the way he makes them explain their question. He doesn't accept the question. Have you noticed he's picked up on that? He now makes them explain, what do you mean by that? They normally can't. Then he says, who are you with? And then just misses them out of hand. It's really pretty brilliant.
The former press secretary of Dr. Jill Biden recently said, you know, the thing about Donald Trump is he's so accessible. I wish Biden had been more accessible. Can you imagine what would have happened, what a disaster that would have been if Chris Biden tried to handle the kinds of questions that Donald Trump does? He takes question about this, about this, about this, which means you have to be on top of all these different issues. Can you imagine what would have happened? Had somebody made Biden more accessible? Are you kidding me?
No, well, that debate, Trump brought that up in the rally in Michigan. That debate, he said, I'm unique this way, too. I'm the only guy that's had to take on two candidates after that disastrous debate. He was down 35 points to me. Then they tapped him out and put Kamala in. He said, can you imagine Dana White running the UFC that way, fighting two fighters at once? Biden couldn't handle it. And when he was actually put up to scrutiny, that's when George Clooney, as you well remember, threw him overboard in an editorial.
Well, you talked to Laura Trump about the first 100 days and how President Trump pulled it off. Let's hear some of that.
Well, it's always a thrill when she's able to make time because she's a very busy lady. But 100 days of Trump? Why wouldn't we bring in a Trump? And Laura Trump is here with us today, host of The Right View with Laura Trump, and you see her fabulous new Fox show. Congratulations on that, by the way, Laura. Welcome back.
Thank you. Great to be with you. I know there's a lot of good stuff going on here with me, but also for the whole country, and we can thank President Trump for that.
I want to take a victory lap again with
Thank you.
We've had you on the show since, but let's talk again about your strategic strike in November with Michael Whatley, how you got here. And 100 days in, is President Trump delivering for you what you all felt you promised in that campaign of November?
I think he's delivering so much more. I think back to like a year ago, and we knew the mammoth task in front of us. We knew how much work we had to do at the RNC in order to make sure that people trusted our electoral process, to make sure there was no nefarious activity, to encourage our low propensity voters to get out. And so we put together a plan, Michael Whatley and I. And, we executed it, and I think we had a great team around us who helped us do that. But of course, the person at the top of all of that was President Trump. And when he went around this country and talked to people about the things that they were dying for someone to say, like, yeah, we need a closed border. We don't need to be sending money overseas. We need to take care of ourselves here in America. We want to get these gang members and these criminals out of our country. We want to make sure that we have safety in our communities. People were dying to hear those things. And so, you look 100 days in, and I think it was pretty funny. You had the USA Today opinion piece actually complimenting Donald Trump. I think it was yesterday that I saw this. And USA Today is not typically a friend to President Trump, but even they had to admit Donald Trump has done more good for America in his first 100 days than Joe Biden did in 4 years. And I think for me, as his daughter-in-law, as a former RNC co-chair, it's not just that we can look at all the statistics and all the numbers and all the things he's actually done. You can feel it out there around the country. The hopeful nature of where we are in America right now, the way people feel finally for the first time positive about the outlook of America, that's really the key. And that's the tell for me. And that's what I've felt everywhere I've been traveling across the country.
And we will finish the rest of this on the other side. Also, you interviewed Caroline Levitt, who I met briefly when I ran for president, Chris, and she was then running for Congress in New Hampshire. Good thing she didn't win. I thought she was extraordinarily talented. We'll have that when we come back. Larry Elder, Chris DeGaulle, do not leave town.
It has been a monumental start to his presidency. This is the 100 Days of Trump with Larry Elder and Chris DeGaulle.
And it is the 100 Days of Donald Trump. Larry Elder, Chris DeGaulle. We continue with Chris DeGaulle's interview with Laura Trump.
PSYOP never stops. They're always trying to sell and sow some narrative. And right now, even Axios, it's funny, over the weekend at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, as you saw, the guy from Axios, along with Jake Tapper, they've written this book on shame on us. We should have been more honest about Joe Biden. But even so, here Axios is peddling this stupid poll, totally fraudulent. It's obvious it's fraudulent. It's something called the American Values Survey. Most Americans now see Trump as, quote, a dangerous dictator. They're pushing that even today. Now, it's a stupid poll of 5,000 adults. We know how this works. That's not a poll. That's just nonsense. But here again, this dangerous dictator business, they're still pushing it, even though he's doing exactly what he was elected to do, Laura.
Yeah, the people who voted for Donald Trump are incredibly happy with their vote. And you know, you want to talk about polling, you go ask those people. I think he got a 95 or 98% approval rating from the people who voted for him. They are very happy, and he's doing exactly what they sent him to Washington, D.C. to do. The problem you have with the left, and by and large with the legacy media, is these people don't really know who they are, and they don't really know what to do to fight against Donald Trump. My God, they threw everything in the world at this man over the past, 8 years or so. They tried the first term to take him down. They impeached him twice. Then they went after him via lawfare. Then, we've escalated to people trying to assassinate him. You see how crazy they have gotten on the left. And so now I guess they're saying, well, let's go back to this resist playbook. Let's go back to the dictator in chief. They don't know how to fight against Donald Trump. What scares people in Washington, D.C. the most, what scares the establishment the most, is someone who pushes back, someone who, bucks the system and goes against the status quo. And that's exactly what this man has been doing. So I'm not surprised that Axios and all their friends want to go back to this same tired playbook. But I would just ask the Democrats, how's it worked for you? What did it get you guys? It got Donald Trump reelected with the most numbers he has ever had, the most approval he's ever had, and more people supporting him now than ever. So they're going to continue to double down on this, and I think they're going to continue to lose.
I asked Caroline Leavitt last week at the White House, Laura, is she or you, is your father-in-law, Eric, are you guys a little bit blown away that they have died on the hill of biological men and women sports and trying to spring illegal alien thugs from El Salvador prisons? This is where they're choosing to spend their time. Does that blow you away at all?
Well, yeah, because this is a party who once upon a time was rather sane. You look at the policies of someone like Bill Clinton when he was president. Those policies would align pretty well with where the Republican Party is today. He would not at all fall in line with some of the woke ideology and the crazy things, like you're saying, that the Democrats are really going hard toward. It's amazing because the American people could not be clearer on where they stand on these issues. You have a majority of Americans who do not believe that people who came here illegally should be allowed to stay in this country. Of course, the gang members, of course, the criminals, the murderers, the rapists, we want to get those people out. And, they continue to go back to this and they say, well, but we're going to go hard on this. They've been so lost for so long in this party. They really don't know who they are. They're suffering from an identity crisis. I said last night on a show that I believe that 2024 was the end of the Democrat Party as we've always known it. They now have far left radicals running the party. And it's sad because it's better for our country when we can have a robust debate, when we can come to, the marketplace of ideas and share differing opinions. Those days are long gone with this party the Democrats have put forward today. And that's why they have incredibly low, in the 20s, approval ratings with the American people.
I'll close with a two-part question. Number one, your husband set heads afire when he showed up in a social media post wearing the Trump 2028 hat.
Yeah.
First of all, what did that mean? Was that just ribbing, or did it mean something? Number two, do you accept the premise that the midterms have to be a blowout for Republicans, or can Republicans win in the midterms too?
I think Republicans can win in the midterms too. I think if there's ever a time in our history where we're poised to see that happen, where we're setting it up in such a way that we could see something that is abnormal. Normally you have a president go in the White House and his party loses the midterm elections, but you see where the Democrats are heading. You see how the American people are not supporting their ideas. And you see that the first 100 days of this administration have been so successful, and promises made, promises kept is really what's going on before our very eyes. The hat I thought was amazing. It means whatever you want it to mean. I got calls. Is your husband running for president? Are you running?
Yeah.
But let me tell you, the best part is that we know how to trigger the mainstream media. And man, those questions were rolling in. You know that the Constitution says 2 terms. You love it. It was so funny and fun. And those hats sold out like hotcakes in a few minutes.
The Right View with Laura Trump, also on Fox News. You're doing fantastic with that. By the way, I wish I had the kind of access Laura Trump had. Hello, that show. It's an all-star, star-packed every episode. Great job out there. Thank you so much for your time on this 100 days, Laura.
You got it. Thanks a lot.
Chris, sometimes a hat is just a hat.
That's right. It drove them crazy. They know how to rib them, don't they?
My head was cold. I put on a hat. Come on, go figure. Chris, what do you make of the rise of someone like Jasmine Crockett? I know she's on the fringe, to be sure, but some of the stuff that she said, she attacked Byron Donalds for having a white wife. She talked about, we're not going to go back to the fields, y'all. And I remember at one time, people like that would have been pulled to the side by a Nancy Pelosi, by a Dick Durbin, by a Chuck Schumer, by somebody who'd say, look, I appreciate your energy, your youthful enthusiasm, but you have to tone it down. No one is saying anything to these people.
Barack Obama, as you remember, came to Pittsburgh and basically told young black men during this last election cycle they better get their minds right and support Kamala Harris because she's a black woman. We know how that ended, and we know how well that went over. Jasmine Crockett is another version of that, in my opinion, when she says things like, and you can speak to this better than me, Larry, when she says things like, skin folk ain't our kinfolk.
Right.
I mean, they keep driving that wedge, I think, in between them and black voters saying, if you don't support us, you're dumb or racist. I think black Americans have had about enough of that.
Or you're not really black, as Joe Biden told Charlemagne the God. You ain't really black unless you know whether or not you want to vote for me or don't vote for Donald Trump. It is insulting. It's saying, don't worry about schools, don't worry about streets, don't worry about crime, don't worry about jobs, worry about social justice because America remained systemically racist. It is insulting.
Yeah, it is. And if you're going to continue to talk to people like that and not actually address the issues of where they live, the crime in the streets, the wages that they earn, which Donald Trump is doing, and that's why he did better. Saquon Barkley was at the White House. The Philadelphia Eagle, they made an issue of that as though he's not allowed. There were some old white sports journalists scolding him that he didn't have his mind right. I don't know. Black America, I think, has woken up and gotten very tired of being lectured by elite whites.
Speaking of an elite white, one of them, number 47, has probably dropped around 20 pounds, hasn't he? You haven't heard any more fat jokes recently. What happened to the fat jokes?
No, wait, do you mean me? Because I've been on PhD weight loss. I've dropped 30 pounds myself, so maybe you mean me. I don't know.
And no one is saying that Donald Trump should be removed from his social media anymore. Now people realize that it was a real strength to go around the mainstream media and communicate directly to the American people. We come back, we're going to have some of his speech that he gave today in Michigan. My co-host is Chris Stigall. I am Larry Elder. Do not leave town.
Welcome back to the 100 Days of Trump. Here's Larry Elder and Chris DeGaulle.
Chris DeGaulle, Larry Elder. Here is part of what Trump said today in Michigan, Chris.
And week by week, we're ending illegal immigration. We're taking back our jobs and protecting our great American auto workers and all of our workers, frankly. We're protecting all of our workers. We're restoring the rule of law, which was sort of out the window with this crazy guy we had. How the hell did that guy ever become president? Could somebody explain to me? How the hell did that happen? There's my friend, Blacks for Trump. I like that guy. He follows me. He follows me.
And Chris, here's another one.
Kamala, she was a great candidate. She was fantastic. Joe Biden was down 35 points. The debate was not a good one for him. He said, you know, if I didn't debate, I could have gone all the way. He was down 35 points, and they decided to replace him. Nothing ever happens like what happens to me. It never happens to anybody else. I had to beat two candidates, so he's down. This is like you're in a fight. Dana White, the UFC, you're in a fight, and you're just beating the guy so badly, and they say, oh, let's put in another fighter. That's what happened. And I knew nothing about her. She was vice president, but nobody knew a damn thing about her. She had nothing to do with the border, even though she was appointed border czar. The great people, all of the great people, Paul and all of the border patrol people, they never spoke to her. They never heard about her. For 4 years, she never called.
Chris, what happens when Trump leaves the stage? He won't leave the stage, obviously, but he won't be able to run again for the third time. What happens to the Republican Party?
Oh, buddy, I think about it all the time. And by the way, it's such a thrill to be with you. I don't get to spend time with you like this on the show, thank you so much for joining me tonight. This is a remarkable man, and as I sat and watched this man fill an arena in his second term, who in politics in history has ever been able to fill an arena into their second term? Who has ever, quite like we've witnessed with this guy, managed to survive a house being raided and the lawfare and a bullet barely nicking his ear, missing his brain? It's remarkable, Larry, that we're here. I don't think we'll ever see anything like it. I know we haven't before. It's almost impossible to suggest that there could be anything like him. So what's left is anybody's guess.
We just have a few seconds left. Let me just end with this. The day before the election in 2016, I'm doing a hit on Fox News. And the guy says to me, camera guy is hooking everything up. He says, Chris, I know the polls say he's not going to win. All I know is I've never seen anybody attract people like this. I covered Hillary. I covered Barack Obama. I covered Bill Clinton. People are coming to an arena knowing they can't get in. 30,000 people knowing they can't get in. They just want to be near the man. That's all I know. I cannot believe that can translate into something. And it did.
Couldn't agree more, my friend. Good to be with you.
Chris, nice working with you. God bless.
Thank you, my friend.
Hey, Chris, thank you.
Larry, thank you very much. Sorry, I couldn't hear you very well there. Great to be with you.